While waiting for the Floor 2 update to come out on doors, something spectacular happened. A new game called Pressure was released, and the description says it's a Doors-inspired horror game. Naturally, I had to try it out, and wow, this game is really good. In this video, I'm gonna talk about how Pressure does horror right, and how it's actually terrifying. Oh shit. Coming from a non-horror enthusiast myself, I can safely say this game gave me the heebie-jeebies. But first, what is Pressure? Well, to give a brief rundown, Pressure is a Roblox horror game where you go through 100 or so randomly generated rooms that present randomly generated dangers. You are an inmate of high security prison. 3 men from the Urban Shade Corporation showed up at said prison and were looking for draftees to retrieve a very important crystal that they weren't able to secure during a security breach at one of their facilities. If you're able to retrieve the crystal, your criminal record will be completely cleared and you'll be rewarded in cash. Of course, you signed up. But what these people don't tell you about are the dangers that you'll face throughout your journey. You are expendable. You are not expected to return. And that's basically all you get to know once you boot up the game for the very first time. This concept of getting sent to do something knowing that you're probably doomed from the start is unique and terrifying. It makes the struggle to reach the end goal almost seem futile, especially knowing that you are not expected to return. If this sounds familiar, it's because another game has done this before, and that's Iron Lung, a horror game whose premise is what most likely inspired the idea of Pressure. When you go to the description, you'll see that Iron Lung is one of the 4 games from which Pressure was inspired, another being Ultra Kill. What's that doing there? But enough about the game's introduction, let's get to the real part. The part where you play the game. You take a submarine and end up at a fairly nice looking facility, and the game teaches you about crouching in order to open the first door, a mechanic that will be used later on. Opening the first few doors, there are probably 2 things every player will realize, that being that there are lockers which you can hide in, which is never a good thing, and also this game is littered with ambience, like way too much. There's demonic growling, random thuds, the bubbling of the water, and the screams. Most of it doesn't actually mean anything, but all of it will work to give you something scarier than the monsters themselves. Active schizophrenia. One very crucial factor for any horror game to be scary is sound design, and this game does not miss. Seriously, I've never felt more paranoid in my life playing a game just by hearing a random thud. But hey, at least it doesn't have the funny psst monster, so that's probably good. Walking throughout the facility feels almost intrusive. First impressions tell you that this facility looks nice, but it doesn't. This place, or what remains of it, used to be a major science corporation building with office desks, test tubes, and other equipment scattered throughout its many rooms, but now it's lonely. The world building in this game is very well done, and I just can't help but feel a sense of dread going through each room. It's like something went deeply wrong here, but you don't know what. It creates a lot of mystery surrounding the place, and this game's massive room variety is nothing short of impressive. It also makes for a lot of unpredictability because one room will just be normal, then the next will be the hit game Identity Fraud for some reason, or Scary Red Pipe Room. There are hundreds of possible rooms, each containing several variants where you can take many different routes. The whole game relies on RNG more so than Doors, and the fact that the entire time you're underwater in one way or another really makes you feel isolated. If you have thalassophobia, this game will definitely trigger it, and you'll probably be questioning yourself, how deep underwater are we? Are there any other living beings in here with us? Well, there are. I don't know if they count as living. That's right, we have Rush from Doors, and a wide variety of rushes to choose from. Now, look, I'm not that big of a fan of the whole fast, screaming PNG shtick that most of these Doors-inspired games have, but it does a good enough job of putting the lockers to good use. And they aren't just your typical rusher-type entities. One goes extremely slowly and forces you out of the locker faster. One goes extremely fast and is quiet until the very last moment. One shows up without any visual cues, and they all just make some horrendous noise. Okay, hide! They're pretty good at being scary because if you get caught by them, you'll get a loud jump scare, and jump scares in any game will most likely prompt a jump from the scare, so it works. But even though the angler and its many variants are some of the most prominent dangers in the facility, it's one you won't worry too much about if you know how to avoid it. What you shouldn't avoid though is hitting that subscribe button. We're more than halfway to 10,000 subs, so if you want to see more stuff like this, subscribe. Anyway, self-promo aside, if you end up dying, which you will because this game is hard as balls, you will be greeted by a voice telling you that every time you die, you will be able to read a document about what killed you, and the more times you die to a specific thing, the more information you'll be allowed to know about it. This little creature is voiced by none other than Johnny Matragrano, a Gabriel Ultrakill, kinda Duke Nukem, or whatever you want to call him. If you manage to get to around door 50, a vent will fling open with the same voice telling you to go inside. Once you do, you'll end up meeting the man himself, and he introduces himself as Sebastian, and if you're anything like me, you'll probably have your Twitter timeline full of this guy. It's actually X. He runs a makeshift shop where he will give you various items in exchange for research you find. In this game, random classified documents, vials, and USB sticks are used as currency, which begs the question, why? Well, during your first playthrough, your supervisor tells you that your primary objective is to secure the crystal that powers the entire facility, and your secondary objective is to secure loose assets, these being the documents and vials I mentioned earlier. There's also a lore reason for why Sebastian accepts them as currency in the shop, which I will get into later. There are a bunch of absolutely horrifying creatures in this game that each serve as a major obstacle in your run. This game knows how to create tension, and it plays with your heart rate as if it's controlling the mini wave in Geometry Dash. You know, I thought Eyes from Doors was annoying until I met Infestation, a creature with an extremely similar premise, except for the fact that it physically pulls your vision towards itself. And a nice little rule for this creature: if you look, you are cooked. But if you're a masochist like me and think it isn't already hard enough, you can flash it twice to anger it, and geez, talk about attractive aura. Shut the fuck up! And it's not only the eyes you'll have to be worrying about. There's this one, and also this one too. What do you mean you don't see the one on the left? Wait, let me turn on the lights. Ah, shit! Believe it or not, one of the scariest monsters in this game is a squid. However, there's a catch, just like all the other monsters. It only appears in rooms where the light is out, and shining any sort of light on it for a few seconds will make it attack you. Now, notice how it appears exclusively in dark rooms, the type of rooms where you need a light source. This entity is basically a fuck you to anybody who thinks they're safe if they use a light source in a dark area. Merely by existing, this creature creates a sense of unease when using a flashlight. Instead of the light source being the thing that makes you feel safe in dark areas, this game will heavily make you doubt even using it in the first place due to the squiddles. Yeah, they're scary, I can't lie. But there's one worse than this, and it's called the Wall Dweller. Guess why he's named that? The Wall Dweller is just your average stalker type enemy that leaves temporarily if you catch him trying to kill you, so once you know a Wall Dweller is after you, you will find yourself checking your back every 10 seconds. It's even more terrifying if one is stalking you in single player, because it's up to you and only you to identify the footsteps that are not your own and turn around to save your life. So besides schizophrenia, this game also gives you extremely severe paranoia, which I guess is just a side effect of schizophrenia. The funny part is that they can die, just like you can. If the angler comes by and destroys a Wall Dweller, you will know by finding its dead body lying coldly on the floor. And that Wall Dweller, it just looks so scrumptious. Yeah, you can eat the creature. It heals you and stuff. There are also a few monsters I left out, like fake lockers, fake doors, Osu minigame. If you push on past Sebastian, you'll have what the wiki calls your first grand encounter. It's a pretty standard boss encounter, I might say. If you stand in any of its light beams for too long, you will get eaten. So you don't want to do that, and instead you gotta fix some generators Dead by Daylight style. This game game is literally 20 other games combined. And once you do that, it's smooth sailing until door 100, where the crystal you came for awaits you. Finally, we're finishing this chaotic mess of a game once and for all. Oops, no, actually, I was lying by saying that. Silly me, you gotta go through 15 more doors while the game throws everything it can at you, with the lights flickering constantly so that you have no actual indicator for when an angler variant might just show up. Also, the angler just shows up, you know, like every other room. It is probably one of the most tense moments in the entire game, full of completely unpredictable scenarios, and it really emphasizes the futility of your attempts. Because guess what? This isn't even the end of the game. Yeah. You really thought, huh? After all that stupid shit, you're just gonna what? Finish the game? What are you, delusional maybe? I guess it's the schizophrenia. Remember that boss fight I mentioned like 30 seconds ago? Well, how about you do that in the middle of the ocean, but with multiple whale dudes? Okay, after listening to War Without Reason copyright-free version no Punjabi, now you can finally beat the game. You repair all the cables and you head back to where you came from and leave with a submarine. That was something. The game tells you you got your criminal record purged and received the cash, and that a fake news story will be published shortly to clear your image in whichever community you originated from. The end. Thanks for playing. What the fuck just happened? Remember when I asked how deep underwater are we earlier in the video? There's an actual answer for that. If you get lucky enough, you might get a rare room called the airlock, which resembles the airlock you go through at the end of the ridge. However, this is just a normal room where you have to go to the next door. You do that by swimming through open waters and following the same green beacons you see throughout the game. After getting to the end of the room and hopefully not getting squashed by a big robot dude, you can pick up a document that Sebastian steals from you, which you can read in the lobby. This document is about the black site, specifically where it's located, and that is in what Urban Shade calls the Let Van zone, or Let Van, I don't know, I'll call it the LV zone from now on. The LV zone was discovered in 1961 after a B-class cargo ship sunk during a storm to the east of Iceland in the Norwegian Sea, after which recovery teams found a previously unknown abyssal trench measuring at a depth of 76,400 Robloxian studs. They also found that at the depth of 67,320 studs, a phenomenon takes place where the water pressure suddenly shifts from the typical deep ocean crushing pressure to that of a swimming pool, and so anything below this depth is referred to as the LV zone. After this discovery, Urban Shade quickly swooped in to blacklist the newly discovered information before the maps of the world could be updated, and so the construction of the black site began in 1962, with construction finishing in 1974. The LV zone was picked as a location for the black site due to its concealment from the world, meaning that they could experiment however and with whatever they wanted to without the worry of any sort of safety and health inspection agency. Truly a science moment. It also meant that they wouldn't have to worry about any information leaks in the event of a security breach. So, what did we learn? We are
more than a dozen kilometers
underwater in this game. Yay! But there's more. Now, if you go to Sebastian's shop and save up 1,000 research, you can buy Sebastian's document, which will give you more information about him. Previously known as the Handyman, his codename is now the Saboteur, and whoever wrote this document ordered for him to be killed on sight. What did Blood do, you may ask? He was charged for murdering 9 people in 2013. But that's not why he must be killed on sight. He was gonna be executed, but Urban Shade falsified his death and imprisoned Sebastian so that they could run experiments on him. And 2 years later, in early 2015, he was selected to be part of an experiment to give humans skills, using strands of DNA from all sorts of aquatic creatures to test if one would be able to breathe underwater after an experiment like this. And although the experimentation was a success, the side effects kind of suck. And so what you see in game is what the experiment turned him into. Turns out though that a little later in the same year, Urban Shade found out that Sebastian was falsely charged and that he didn't even kill any 9 people and he was just an innocent man. But at this point it was already too late to release Sebastian since he was already declared deceased, and also he just kind of looks like this now. So what Urban Shade did was just move him up a rank, albeit he was still a prisoner, granting him slightly better living conditions. Truly a big science moment. And everything was going well until 2025, the year in which this game takes place. Sebastian was given anesthesia, but he faked succumbing to its effects and woke up during transport. Transport where? Probably in a containment cell, who knows? He kills elite guardsmen, after which he steals his keycard and proceeds to free as many monsters as possible from their containment cells, causing a site-wide lockdown. This is further reinforced by these red screens you might come across throughout the game, which describe this moment, giving an exact time frame for each event. And would you look at that?
246. Soldiers cannot reach Crystal without major losses. Expendable protocol initiated. 8:05. First group of expendable prisoners arrive.
Hey, that's us! Probably. So the reason we're doing all of this is because of the silly shopkeeper guy who has too much fan art on Twitter. It's X, man. Sorry, X. Yeah, he's the reason we're doing this. And also because Urban Shade can't risk losses and they know they have nothing to lose by sending random convicts to do this job for them. Truly a big business moment. The reason Sebastian accepts research as currency in his shop is found in another paragraph of his document, which states that CCTV captured him trading stolen items for research with EXP-P expedition party members, those being us. It is unknown why, but encrypted radio broadcasts to Innovation Inc., Blockstop, Deluge Labs, and Pinewood suggest he is gathering confidential information to leverage a way out with any rivaling organization. This is really cool to me, not only because it expands the lore quite a fair amount and lets you learn about Sebastian's motives, but also because some of the names mentioned in the document are real. And this is where I have to sidetrack a bit and give you a little piece of Roblox trivia. Innovation Inc. and Pinewood are an old series of games made by various developers where you work as a scientist to maintain a laboratory in different locations. Some of the games that still have players on them are Innovation Inc. Spaceship, Innovation Inc. Thermal Power Plant, Innovation Arctic Base, and Pinewood Computer Core. These games are old as hell, but to this day there are still people who will treat this as their 9 to 5. Personally, I just kind of like doing the big boom and pissing people off, so these games are very fun to mess around in. It brings together the essence of old Roblox, where it was merely just a sandbox where you could do whatever you wanted. But enough reminiscing, what I want to draw attention to is the fact that the people at Innovation and Pinewood decided to make their games take place in the same universe, the lore being that they're rivaling organizations. And it looks like Pressure is in that same universe as well. I find that neat because Pressure will most likely make a few new players who've never heard of these games before try them out. It's a very nice way to get people to discover some old but gold Roblox games. I've looked everywhere on the internet trying to find Blockstop and Deluge Labs or Deluge, but I couldn't find them anywhere. There are probably some fictional organizations that might be expanded on in a future update. Correct me if I'm wrong. So that's why Sebastian uses research in his shop, because he knows that it's important to him and that you go around collecting a lot of it. There's a lot of other documents that I just don't have the time to cover in this video, but you can go read them for yourself, either in-game or on urbanshade.org. There's a lot of spicy lore, and whilst I was working on this video, they went ahead and updated the game. How did they do that? So, in conclusion, everything in this game has a purpose, or at least most things don't go unexplained, which if you've watched my recent Ultra Kill video, you'll know matters a lot to me. It's really neat seeing a game like this come together, taking inspiration from all kinds of sources, and I think the way they took inspiration from the respective games goes like this: Doors for the main gameplay aspects and quality, Iron Lung for the underwater concept, Ultra Kill for break core, and SCP Containment Breach for the juicy lore, documentation of the monsters, and the overall style of the game. If you want your socks to be scared clean off, play the game, please! Play it!